Former Special Counsel Robert Mueller kicked off a very long awaited hearing this morning. And this is about Trump and the Russia probe. But do we have any new answers? Well, RT's Sara Montes de Oca is here with more. Sarah, they just wrapped up like an hour or two ago. Both sides are claiming victory. What happened?
Well, there were hours of testimony, Scottie. Now, the House Judiciary Chairman, Jerry Nadler, kicked off the hearing this morning, addressing Mueller directly, but there are a lot of questions that we'll hear from, I'm sure. Then he's been pushing for this testimony for quite some time now. Now, on one side, you have the Democrats really focusing on obstruction of justice, while the other side, the Republicans, are looking for answers on the Steele dossier. Now, one of the most important moments was getting to the bottom of why Mueller didn't charge President Trump with obstruction of justice, and simply put, because of the long-standing Justice Department guidelines that prohibit indicting a sitting president.
In fact, you were actually unable to conclude the president did not commit obstruction of justice. Is that correct?
Well, we, at the outset, determined that we, when it came to the president's culpability, we needed to go forward only after taking into account the OLC opinion that indicated that a president, a sitting president, cannot be indicted.
But at the beginning of the second hearing, he corrected the statement. Listen to what Mueller said.
Now, before we go to questions, I want to add one correction to my testimony this morning. I want to go back to one thing that was said this morning by Mr. Liu, who said, and I quote, "You didn't charge the president because of the OLC opinion." That is not the correct way to say it. As we say in the report, and as I said at the opening, we did not reach a determination as to whether the president committed a crime.
But impeachment here has been a very hot issue. Louisiana Congressman Mike Johnson asked Mueller about impeachment, and Mueller said, "I'm not going to even talk about that issue." And at one point, Ohio's Congressman Jim Jordan got into details on the Trump-Russia connection, and he sharply questioned Mueller on why Joseph Misfud, the London-based professor connected to Russian officials who was in contact to the Trump's campaign advisor, George Papadopoulos, wasn't charged.
And when the FBI interviews him, he lies 3 times, and yet you don't charge him with a crime. You charge Rick Gates for false statements. You charge Paul Manafort for false statements. You charge Michael Cohen with false statements. You charge Michael Flynn, a 3-star general, with false statements. But the guy who puts the country through this whole saga, starts it all for 3 years we've lived this now, he lies, and you guys don't charge him. And I'm curious as to why.
Well, I can't get into it, and it's obvious, I think, that we can't get into charging decisions.
Throughout today's testimony, Mueller declined to answer certain questions multiple times. Take a listen.
Direct you to the report. Well, I would have to refer you to the report on that. I direct you to the report for how that is characterized. I rely on the language of the report. I refer you to the report.
Mueller deflected in front of the House in both hearings 198 times. Now, he also gave one-word responses with the yes or no several times. So, Scottie, a lot of questions remain unanswered. And did the Democrats actually, is this their last effort to moving toward a path of impeachment, or will this be enough to sway the public one way or another? But we're hoping that...
Or option 3, they stop talking about it, move on to another issue going forward.
That
would be a dream, I think.
But yes, I agree. Maybe they can finally put this to rest, but after these several hours,
there's still lots more questions. Sarah, thank you for following this. Now for the 360 view, we got to bring in our political panel, civil rights attorney Robert Patillo and Ned Ryun, CEO of the American Majority. Thank you so much for joining me, gentlemen.
Good to be with you, Scottie.
Okay, so I have to start off, Robert. I'm gonna go to you on this one. Do you feel that the Democrats actually helped their case, and this is mainly after the first round, but I guess we're looking at round 2 as well, in the line of questioning today regarding the impeachment of President Trump?
Well, I don't think there ever was a serious case for the impeachment of President Trump. I think what the entire point of these hearings were to clarify some of the parts of the Mueller report, hear directly from the person who put this together, to clarify for the American people exactly what happened, why the president could not be charged under Justice Department guidelines, why these so many individuals were involved in this broad investigation, and what exactly the taxpayer spent $35 million on. So I think to that extent, it was very successful in achieving those goals for the Democrats. Now, I think Republicans went off on these wild goose chases, these conspiracy theories that really distracted from the point of the hearing in the first place.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up. And personally, for $35 million, I can think of a lot better places that we could put that money in the United States than what we've seen today, this ongoing. That's my personal opinion. Ned, I got to ask you, though, did Republicans really have a free hand, especially, like I said, round one, to ask questions and, more importantly, get answers? Because it seemed like Mueller kept giving excuses as to why he couldn't answer the real tough questions from Republicans.
Well, I thought it was a dumpster fire for Democrats and, quite frankly, a dumpster fire for Mueller's reputation. I saw an older man who clearly did not appear to be up to the task, who it appeared to me, Scottie, it might have been the first time he read portions of his own report. It was clear he was a titular head of this investigation. It was run by staff. He even admitted as much that Aaron Zebley, who, by the way, represented Hillary's IT person who destroyed BlackBerries and used BleachBit to destroy emails, was the one running the day-to-day investigation. Fact of the matter is, I want to address the biggest point. Again, he kept on saying special counsel, again, because these OLC couldn't indict. Well, of course he can't indict. But you know what a special counsel can do? Can actually conclude that a crime was committed. That was within his powers to do so. He did not. In fact, was asked multiple times, was there obstruction of justice? There was not. His investigation was not impeded at all. So the fact of the matter is, Bob Mueller intentionally punted on this issue to muddy the waters. And I think what today Republicans were able to do was show again and highlight there was no obstruction of justice. There was no crime. There was no conspiracy. There was no collusion. All we had was a clown show today, Scottie.
But you would think that, Ned, and you're still seeing Democrats, you're also seeing those in the media right now that are defending today, saying Robert Mueller has just tried and convicted Donald Trump. Let's once again start the impeachment. Or this justifies that the only reason why Trump was elected was because Russia got involved. I got to ask Robert, though, in those line of questions, why didn't Mueller get into specifics? Why isn't questions about Fusion GPS, Christopher Steele dossier?
Exactly.
Why are those outside of his realm of expertise that he actually can answer on? It's what caused this investigation in the first place.
Well, literally, when Robert Mueller gave his press conference about a month ago, he said, I'm only going to, any public statements I make will only be with regard to the written report. The written report is out there. We have the guidance from AG Barr this week saying to stay within the lines of the written report. When he sat down, his opening statement was, I'm only going to say what is in the written report. And then Republicans started asking questions outside of the written report. They knew exactly what answers they were going to get. Nothing that Robert Mueller said vindicated or cleared the president's name. He made no conclusions towards obstruction because, according to Robert Mueller, he knew that he could not charge the president with obstruction of justice. So why even investigate that? Why even work towards that? Why release that information to the public if you know you cannot charge the individual? That goes back to Janet Reno in the 1990s during the Starr investigation. So he played within the lines, and Republicans seem to be wanting to make their own rules up as we go along.
Oh, Dad, did you make up your own rules?
That wasn't his job. That
Okay.
wasn't his job, Scottie. A special counsel is not to indict, is to actually conclude if there was a crime or not. And it's clear he did not have the ability to charge Donald Trump or conclude that Donald Trump committed a crime. I will say this. I find it beyond the realm of possibility that he didn't know who Fusion GPS was. He refused to answer questions on whether they actually interviewed Christopher Steele. And I will say this, I appreciated Jim Jordan's line of questioning. How do you not convict Nifsud on lying 3 times to the FBI, but with Robert Gates and Michael Flynn and Papadopoulos, they all got convicted? I mean, this shows to me what I think one of the biggest real problems we have in this country right now is an equal application of the law. I think this made a complete farce of the rule of law and actually turned our legal system into a political weapon against a political opponent, quite frankly, over policy differences.
Well, and that's interesting that you bring that up because, Ned, I did find the line of questioning about who Mueller held and didn't hold in contempt and obstruction of justice kind of interesting. You know, Representative McClintock was the first one to bring this up and say, you brought Flynn, you brought the campaign chair, you brought all these others up for it, but you didn't go after Christopher Steele. What was he trying to accomplish by showing that?
Well, I think what they were trying to show and what they were trying to demonstrate, Robert Mueller made it very clear he's not going to comment on any pending investigations. He's not going to comment on any other individuals who are not outlined in the report. Republicans were trying to make this about everything else except for what the hearing was about, which was the question of obstruction of justice with regards to the president, and to clarify what was put out in the Mueller report. That is exactly what Robert Mueller came to do. That is exactly what Robert Mueller did. The fact that he did not indulge everybody's conspiracy theories does not mean that he did not do exactly what he was charged with doing. I feel like Republicans wanted to go off on every wild goose chase. Why did he not prosecute Boris and Natasha? Why did he not get the squirrel? But instead of doing that, he did exactly what he was mandated to do, and he explained the report to the American people.
Hey, exactly what he said. Why didn't he prosecute Boris and Natasha? In fact, I think they have more of a chance of getting prosecuted than Christopher Steele and the people that brought up the Steele dossier. Last word to you, real quick to you, Ned, on this one. Did this change anybody's minds, and did it not, if anything, expose what you just kind of went down the rundown of saying this has always been a system built against the president, what it was being used for?
Well, I think what it did today, Scottie, was show Democrats do want to go down that path of impeachment. I really think they thought that the Mueller report would give them what they wanted. It didn't. They hoped today that the Mueller hearings would. It did not. So I think Democrats are going to find themselves in a really tight spot because they really, really want to impeach, but everything keeps on coming up empty. I don't know where they go from here except for maybe actually try to legislate and govern as the Congress of the United States and actually address the issues the American people want to see addressed.
Oh, silly Ned, come on, please. You don't think this circus is not going to continue? I'm sure that we're going to find several more days to live off it. Thank you both so much for bringing in at this last minute.
Hey YouTube, thanks for checking out our channel. We hope you enjoyed the video. We have tons of content for you just like this. For more of RT America's one-of-a-kind news and analysis, be sure to subscribe and never stop questioning more.